Who would have thought uploading hundreds of videos to YouTube, all of that time was wasted. I should have just gone on the Sheasby podcast. That would have solved all of the problems.
Benjamin Macintyre, thanks for coming on the podcast. Could you start with an introduction of who you are and what you do, please?
Yeah, well, thank you for having me on. I'm a 18-year-old powerlifter. I'm a powerlifting coach, and I've been doing powerlifting for 3 years-ish, coaching for 1 year. And I also have a somewhat big niche as a powerlifting channel with around 30,000 subscribers there and 6,000-ish followers on Instagram. And this is pretty much what I'm doing full-time right now, even though full-time I'm living in my mom's basement. So kind of not a real full-time, but I plan to make this my full-time job thing to do.
Yeah. I mean, in your mum's basement, but instead of video games, you've got squat racks.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So, yeah, you said you're a powerlifter. You're, well, very strong for your age, if I'm understanding correctly. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think your bench is currently around like 180 kg. Deadlift is around 300. Squat 235. Is that right?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
And you had the world record deadlift at 15 for your, is that weight category or age or?
That was as a 15-year-old under 93 kg, I pulled 275, which it's not an official world record. That doesn't exist, a category called that. But at the time, it was the heaviest deadlift that's ever been done at 15 years old. And it still is the second highest. So at that time, it was really, really good. It still is pretty good today, but it's not like an official category to make a record in.
Yeah. So I think you've been training for about 3 years. Is that right?
Yeah. I started like right before I turned 15, and I just turned 18 now. So something like that.
Okay. So I think we're about the same age. When's your birthday?
29th August, 2005.
27th of September. So
okay.
Well, one month younger. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So how did you kind of get into it? Like, did you have like family members who are into this stuff? Or?
No, actually, I know no one that did this, but I just kind of always liked the idea of training in a gym because it's like I'm not dependent on other people, but I didn't really know exactly what it was. But I pretty much got into training from watching Brian Shaw, his OG YouTube videos like 8 years ago, 5 years ago. That's when I got interested in like strongman and training and just like overall training. And then around those 3-4 years ago, when I actually started training, I started to watch Larry Reels on YouTube as well. And he really was the one that inspired me to start going into the gym. And I started going to the gym like from day one with the purpose of being the best possible powerlifter and increasing my squat, bench, and deadlift. So that has like always been the goal and still is.
Yeah. Okay. So you started around 15 or just before that. And then kind of in just like a year and a bit, you then had 275 kg deadlift. So
yeah, my deadlift skyrocketed immediately.
I know some people have like said you aren't natty, but you compete tested, right?
Yeah, I've been tested like 10 times, something like that, for doping. Because here in Denmark, we have like a specific, I don't know what it's called, anti-doping Denmark. That's what it's called in Denmark. They also have that in a few other countries, but basically they test you in competitions and out of competitions. So they come random times in my gym when I'm just training normally, because all the gyms that you have to be assigned to a specific gym to be allowed to compete in Denmark. And all those gyms have to be in a contract with Anti-Doping Denmark. So they will come to your gym whenever they want to and just say, now it's time to test you. And you just get tested randomly all the time. So I get tested like a few times a year at random times and also at most meets.
Yeah. So would you say you have like really quite good genetics then? If you manage to...
Yeah. I mean, I definitely have above average genetics for sure. As like I started off a bit stronger than all the other guys my age, but I also got stronger way faster than all the other guys my age. So I definitely also have like better genetics than most people. but I don't think I have like the best genetics at all. There's definitely like freakier lifters out there genetic wise than me.
Yeah. I know you said you always kind of had the goal of getting strong at powerlifting, squat, bench, deadlift.
Yeah.
So how did you kind of tailor your training towards that? Are you squatting? I saw one of your programs. You said you were squatting like, I think it was 3 squat, 3 deadlift, 4 bench, or something like that.
So it has kind of been changing a lot throughout the like years that I've been training. But in the beginning, I obviously didn't know exactly what I was doing, but I knew to increase my squat, bench, and deadlift, I had to do squat, bench, and deadlift. So I just did that a lot, with also lots of accessories and stuff like that. And then over the time, I got more and more specific into powerlifting. I've had lots of different coaches myself, which were like helping me get a base of knowledge for powerlifting. So I not only tried to get as strong as possible from the coach, but I tried to learn as much as possible from each coach that I've had, so I can like make my own programs, even though I have a coach, like understand everything that goes into my own program and make programs for other people. And really, there's like different schools of powerlifting programming, and like I'm just in one of them. It's all somewhat similar, where you squat, bench, and deadlift like maybe 2 to 5 times a week. Only the bench press is up there at 5 times a week. For squat and deadlifts, more so 2-3 times a week. And just high frequency, high specificity, also with lots of accessories as well, though.
Yeah, and then I think you also mentioned your program was quite high volume. It's not that you're always kind of going to failure or anything, but it's just getting your muscles used to doing a lot of heavy lifting.
Yeah, like all of my work is RPE based. So I don't know if you're familiar with that.
Yeah. Reps to each exertion.
Yeah. So I kind of have most of my volume at an RPE of 5 to 8, which is like for most like gym goers relatively easy. But I have lots of volume in that range, and it's high quality because I'm always going up to those like RP 8 to 10 maximum exertion lifts. So that's typically like the way most powerlifters today train, with RPE and with like somewhat high volume in like 5 to 8 RPE range. That's like the typical way powerlifters today train.
Sure. And then how do you look at rest days? I know you have like deload weeks every few weeks, and then are you in the gym every day? I don't think you are.
No, so right now I'm only doing 5 times a week. I've been doing 6 times a week the last 2.5 years, but I recently switched coach, and he wanted me to try out 5 times a week, and that actually seemed to work significantly better for me. So now I'm not even doing that super high volume or super high RPE, but I'm still progressing really nicely on that. So yeah.
Yeah, and then is there anything else you kind of do for your recovery apart from, obviously you have rest days, but like how do you look at like kind of sleep and stretching or anything like this?
I don't necessarily do any like specific stretching for that. I haven't really found that to be effective at all. And also have a nutrition coach who like does all that stuff for me. And he also just doesn't recommend me to like stretch for that unless there is any kind of mobility issues that I have. But generally, I've always had really good mobility, so that's not really an issue for me. So what I do is really just prioritizing sleep and prioritizing getting in my meals. I'm like one of those guys that like to eat the exact same every single day. So that's what I'm doing. It's just simple for me and easy to do and easy to follow. So I just do what my nutrition coach says about that and just keep on with that. And sleep is really just a priority in my opinion. It's not something that's super complicated. You just have to prioritize, not like being super active with like high light exposure and stuff like that right before you go to bed, and then just prioritize actually going to bed when you need to go to bed.
Yeah, for sure. And then how many meals are you currently doing? I saw in your older video you did 5 a day, but it's still like that?
4 to 5. Right now I'm at 4, but that's because I have a competition pretty soon, which is very late. So I've kind of changed my entire 24-hour cycle for that. So I'm not as awake as many hours. So right now it is 4 meals a day. Yeah.
And is there anything else you kind of change when you're coming up to competitions apart from your meals? Like how does your training change at all?
Well, I'm obviously doing a peaking phase for my competitions. So I do like block periodization, and with that we do a few blocks leading up to the competitions, which are like really high specificity, slowly increasing specificity even more, and training stress. And then at the end, we're deloading, tapering everything off, and then I should be ready for the competition day, which has worked really well. Other than that, I also changed the times that I'm training for the time that the weigh-in is at, or the time that I'm going to compete at the competition. So typically that's like pretty early, but this competition here, I'm competing at European Championships in just 1.5 weeks. There, I'm going to lift very, very late. So I've changed. I just woke up like a few hours ago, and it's like 4 right now. So I'm like changing my body to be fresh, really fresh at like 10, 11, because that's when I'm going to lift. So yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And when you say specificity, what can you explain kind of what you mean by that?
Yeah, specificity is how close to a squat, bench, or deadlift 1 rep max I'm doing, because that is like the high specificity. What I'm training for. So when I'm doing higher specificity in training, that is just more heavy exposures on the like competition standard squat, with like no variations, no higher rep ranges or lower RPEs and stuff like that. So getting as close as possible to the lift that I'm gonna like do in the competition.
Yeah. Okay. And then, so what does your diet kind of look like now? I know we talked about how many meals you have, but like it's also quite clean from your previous
it's
videos.
like it's relatively clean. I have right now I can just go through the meals. It's pretty simple because it's the exact same every single day. So I kind of have, I think it's 220 grams of protein, 370 grams of carbs, and then like 195 grams of fat, which is like relatively normal, getting in the protein spread out over the day. Just a little bit more than what you would normally recommend for someone my body weight, but still completely normal for the protein. And I just space them out those four times a day.
Okay. Yeah, and then based on those that should be about, is it about 4,200 calories?
Yeah, 4,100.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. And then what do you actually eat? Is it like in terms of the actual foods?
For proteins, I have eggs, regular protein powder, chicken thighs, and minced beef. That is the only real protein sources I have at the moment. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then carbs is like...
Yeah, there's rice and also some cereal at the moment. Some like, not with like super high sugar, but just some regular cereal, rice and pasta.
Yeah, I remember seeing, I think it was on one of your videos that you were eating like 3 bowls of cereal. It's like a nighttime snack or something.
I actually stopped doing that for like 1.5 years, but I recently started again because it's just easy to get in carbs and easy to digest carbs.
Mm-hmm. And then fats was you having yogurt. Is that still the case?
No, that's not actually the case anymore. That's just from the meat and from like olive oil and different stuff. It just like comes throughout the carbs and protein.
Yeah. Okay. So when did you first do your first powerlifting meet?
I did my first powerlifting deadlift only competition. I actually did 3 deadlift only competitions before my first real powerlifting meet, where I did that 275 kg deadlift. And that was around 6 months after I started training, something like that. Maybe a little bit more because of like the COVID stuff that came around with the lockdown. So I don't remember. I think it was like not 16 yet. I was 15.5 years old. So around 6 months later, I competed in my first competition and I did 252.5 kg deadlift, which was enough to place me in like top 5 already there at 15 years old in my first competition after training for like 6 months, which was pretty crazy. But I didn't know that at the time that it was like really good. I just wanted to lift and break my PRs.
Yeah. And what was that like for you? Is it quite a lot of pressure the first time, or?
The first time there wasn't a lot of pressure, actually. I'm not sure exactly why I didn't feel that. Um, I only thought about what I could do for myself and just try and hit a new PR, and I just had fun. And that was pretty much the way it went. It was first like the later competitions where I had already done some really, really good stuff competition wise. Like my first competition, I went 9 for 9, meaning I hit every single lift perfectly. And like I hit PRs on every single lift. So I had a next competition right after that, where there obviously was expectations for me to do that again. And that's when the expectations really started to hit there.
Yeah. Yeah, because you kind of set something then. Yeah, that makes sense. And then
Yeah, I couldn't really have high expectations in the first competition because I didn't really have any I haven't earned to have high expectations at that time.
yeah. I know you train at it's AK Nordland is the gym,
Yeah.
correctly? Yeah.
Yeah.
Seen you guys having some fun in the videos.
Yeah.
What's it been like training there? It's like a good community.
Yeah, it's like a small local gym, but it's really fun to do that to train there because like all of the guys that go there, we're like 15 maybe guys. It's a really small gym, like 15 maybe 20 guys, and only really 10 guys that really train together. So we all know each other, and we're always there. We like train at the same times, and we have fun and just enjoy training together.
Yeah. And would you say that's like helped you a lot with your progress, or at least partly?
It's definitely helped me maintain my motivation for training because it brings like another variable in that makes training even more fun with like the community there and everything with that. But it hasn't necessarily like made me stronger, I think. Right now I'm training in 2 different gyms now, and it's not like because I cannot train in AK Nordland I'm not getting stronger or anything like that. But it has definitely helped me keep motivation high at a like baseline high, and that has probably helped a little bit. But that hasn't really been an issue either from me.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, we're gonna get a bit more specific into like the kind of accessories you do, because I know, from my understanding, you're quite a big fan of like face pulls for shoulders. Can you explain like why you like them?
Yeah, well, face pulls, I think it's just a little bit underrated to do volume for your rear delts when you're benching a lot, because I'm like benching 5 times a week normally. And for a lot of people, I have like pretty big arch when I'm benching. And for a lot of people, they cannot get that without big rear delts. Like that's just not gonna happen. You have to get a big upper back to get a big bench press and squat and deadlift. And really, it's not a prime mover of any of those lifts. So you're not gonna like train it a lot. You're not gonna get huge rear delts from benching. And also same with squat and deadlift, unless you're like deadlifting 900 pounds, then sure, you probably have big rear delts. But you're not going to train them as a prime mover, so you have to do the accessory work for those. Unlike something like quads, there's lots of powerlifters that never train quads with accessories because they're training them so much for the squat and deadlift. There is where I see the upper back as the exact opposite of that, where you have to train that because you don't really do that in the squat, bench, and deadlift.
There's also partly to watch out for like muscle imbalance if you're doing a lot of pressing on the front.
Yeah, for sure. I don't really know exactly how much I believe in the fact that you would get like shoulder injuries from that. But I definitely don't. I don't think it's a bad idea to do more rear delt volume when you're doing all the front delt volume for sure. Also, just for like aesthetics, nobody wants to only have big front delts and no rear delts. So yeah.
Yeah. If I'm correct, you said that the face pulls was kind of the only real thing you did for shoulders, apart from pressing, obviously, for bench press.
I'm like pretty genetically gifted with the shoulders, I think, because I never trained shoulders besides face pulls and bench press. But even with that, shoulders is probably one of my like best aesthetically body parts. So yeah, I think you don't need. I don't need for sure more than bench press and face pulls to get good shoulders. But a lot of people probably would need that.
And when you do face pulls, do you prefer to do them like kind of, I know you can kind of do them a bit more like rotating over the back versus kind of pulling straight to the face with the elbows lower?
I've actually done them many different ways over the time. Now I've kind of found that just the more external rotation I get in my upper arm, the better. But I really like high reps on the face pulls just to really get a pump there. And it's really just pump work from my upper back. That is really just what it is.
Yeah, okay. You mentioned that shoulders are quite a strong point probably for your physique. Would you say you have any major, or I guess what are your major weak points that you're trying to focus on now? And also for squat, bench, deadlift.
Yeah. So muscle weak points, I don't really judge that on how aesthetically it is looking, because even though it's nice to like be somewhat jacked and like pretty big, it is not why I'm training. Like I'm training to maximize my squat, bench, and deadlift, and then the physique and everything with that is a byproduct of that. So for me, muscle weaknesses are just the prime movers in the squat, bench, and deadlift. I don't have any like glaring, like huge weak points. I once had where my spinal erectors were pretty bad in the squat, where I was not limited by my quads or like legs at all. I was limited by folding over in my upper back. But that's not really an issue anymore. So now it's really just about getting big on my prime movers. For the bench press, it's my chest. For my squats, it's probably my quads. And for the deadlift, it's also like very balanced between my quads and my hip hinge.
Yeah, so you said you had a weak spinal erectors. How did you kind of bring that up? Were you doing back extensions and stuff? Or
Yeah, I was. It was mainly in the squat, and I treated it with very high specificity for the squat. So you can like kind of treat weak points in many different ways. You can say that you have a weak point in your spinal erector, so you should do a lot of back extensions to like fix that because it's working on spinal erectors. But what I kind of did is I treated it as a specific way as I possibly could, because the issue was only a spinal erector issue in the squat. So I try and treat it with the squat. So I did like squat variations where I am forced to use my spinal erectors more, try and getting as close to the squat as possible, but try and make the spinal erectors the limiting factor there. So I did something like high bar squats and SSB squats, reverse SSB squats, stuff like that, where the bar is further in front of you, so the moment arm gets worse for your spinal erectors, so that becomes the limiting factor significantly before your lower body does. I think the best one I did for that, where it was really only the spinal erectors, was a reverse SSB bar. So one of those bar with the handles down here, where you take, it has like the plates going out an angle, and typically that's away from you. But if you turn it around 180 degrees, that is in front of you. So you're standing with the barbell here, and the plates are in front of you. So you have to keep the force to like extend as much as possible throughout the entire time. So with that, I was training my spinal erectors in a very specific way to the squat, which is like kind of how I fixed that in the squat.
Yeah. Okay, cool. It's interesting how kind of much you focus on, I get it makes sense, but I haven't really thought about it this much, about the specificity of like really trying to be as close as possible to what you're training for. Like that example there, like so many people would just be like, oh yeah, I'll just do back extensions and like focus the rear back, lower back even. But you're like, well, I need it for the squat, so I'm going to try and do it as close to the squat as possible.
Exactly. It's only an issue with my spinal erectors in this very specific movement pattern that I need to train. So that's what I'm going to try and train. And the same stuff is like with core. If your core is an issue, you might not necessarily want to do a bunch of sit-ups, like 1,000 reps of sit-ups. If the issue with the core is that you cannot maintain a like 2-second like static hold in your core. So if you're doing 1,000 reps of like dynamic reps in the sit-ups, that's probably not going to give you a great carryover to holding your core tight in like a max effort 1 rep max deadlift.
Yeah, because even, I don't know too much about this, but you could get into like the angle of the muscle fibers and stuff, and just because you're training it doesn't mean you're training it like how it needs to be for that strength position.
Exactly. And it's also, that's a big difference between like a static hold in your core and a dynamic effort in your core.
Yeah, okay. And then kind of where do you see this going, I guess, for you? Like, do you have any big future goals, or just kind of like, I'm just going to keep lifting and see where this goes?
In terms of my lifting, or in terms of like the YouTube, Instagram coaching kind of stuff?
We can go with both, but I was thinking more to do with lifting. Do do you plan on like I'm going for this world record or anything or?
Yeah, I mean, I want to do this for as long as possible. Just really try and test my limits, see where my body can go in the squat, bench, and deadlift. See how far I can push myself. And most people in powerlifting peak pretty late, so I'm assuming to do this for a very long time. And even when I've peaked at like 30 to 35, then I can just peak again at 40, see how good I can be there. So that's kind of what I want to do right now. But obviously I'm not 40 yet, so I don't really know. Things might change, but that is the plan right now, and it has been for like a couple of years.
Yeah. And are there any kind of ways you look at making sure you're training for longevity to make sure that you do actually manage to get to 30, 35, 40 without like having serious injuries or anything like this?
Yeah, well, I think injury prevention is mostly about load management. And I haven't really ever gotten a serious injury. I've never had an injury for more than like a couple of sessions, like a week or two. So I think it's partly genetic. I'm genetically gifted to not get injured, but also just like I train smart. I always have a coach on me that like makes sure that I'm not like rapidly increasing the weight too much or anything like that. And with the style that I'm training right now, I just don't think it is very common to get injuries. Also, just powerlifting in general is a very there isn't many injuries in powerlifting, especially tested powerlifting.
And why did you say that? Is it because you got a lot of spotters and stuff on the comps, or?
No, it's just like literally from data. If you look at some studies, like to compare the injury rate per hours played in different sports, powerlifting is at one of the lowest there is, especially compared to like
Team
I don't know what to
sports,
call
probably.
it. Yeah, but team sports where there's other people, and it's like chaos sports like football, basketball, soccer, American football, all those with like where you engage with other people.
flying around.
Yeah, exactly. That's way more common to get injured.
Yeah, the weights in the gym don't move by themselves.
Yeah, exactly. It's the exact same barbell with the exact same place and the exact same rack every single time.
Yeah. Okay. That's a good point, actually. And then do you think there are any like large kind of mistakes or things you wish you did differently, or kind of common mistakes that a lot of people make in powerlifting that are kind of holding them back?
I've actually been thinking if there was any from me, but I don't really think I've made any huge mistakes because I've had a good time along the way. I've like made overall pretty good progress at most times. I will say at one point I had a coach where I wasn't making a lot of progress, but I just trusted him blindly for a very long time, where I could have like trusted myself a little bit more and maybe start with that and started to like make a little bit more progress again. So kind of to trust your intuition a little bit more would have been better for me. But for most people, I think it's just better to have fun along the way. And we got to remember that like in powerlifting, in like 99% of the time, you're doing this for a hobby, for fun. So that's what you should treat it as. Remember to have fun even on your bad days. You shouldn't get to a point where a bad day in the gym is like letting you have a completely bad week or something like that, or a bad day at all. It's still just like, we're here to have fun. We're here to train, to get stronger and get better.
Yeah. I think that's an important point as well, that like you're probably not going to feel the same every day, but like if you want to improve, you got to keep showing up, and some days are going to be better than others.
Exactly.
And then on the YouTube side, social media coaching, where do you see that going? Do you want that? You said you want that to be full time.
Yeah, I would like for powerlifting coaching to be my full time thing to do. That is the goal, and it's going pretty well right now. I'm still like increasing how many athletes I can have, and like I'm basically always at the cap at how many I'm saying that I want to have to how many I have. So yeah. I want to do that as much as I can.
And that would be mainly from coaching. Have you thought about like sponsorships or anything like that, or you're not really interested in?
Yeah, I mean, I have gotten a lot of like sponsorship where they've asked me if I want to get sponsored, But a lot of times I've said no because they want me to like say some stuff I might not fully agree with, or it's like half a lie or something like stuff like that. Unless it's something that I truly 100% believe in, I'm not getting sponsored by anything. That's also why I am not sponsored by anything at the moment.
Don't believe in anything.
Yeah. Yeah, well, don't believe in anything that wants to sponsor me right now.
Yeah.
I have gotten like some deals where I'm getting a t-shirt, getting a hoodie and stuff like that, and then they just say you can wear it if you want to, you can stop wearing it if you don't want to, and that's cool. But I don't have any like official sponsors, anything like that.
Yeah, I think that is a good, especially if you plan to be in this until like you're 30, 40 or whatever. And even if you weren't, I mean, I think it is worth, in the long term, I think it will pay off like to have a good reputation, because once you ruin your reputation, it's kind of like, it's hard to come back from that, really.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, cool. This has been interesting. Is there anything else you want to add? Or we can guess round up soon.
No, I don't think I have anything else. Well, thank you for having me on.
Yeah, it's good to have you. So, to people who want to check out your social medias, on Instagram, it's Benjamin B. Macintyre, Macintyre, and YouTube, Benjamin Macintyre. Is there anywhere else you want people to send you? If they want to get coaching from you or anything like this?
Coaching inquiries is on Instagram. You can just send me a DM there. Although I might be full at the moment when you're messaging, you can just come on later on if you think we're a match.
Yeah, okay. Thanks, Ben. It's been cool to kind of watch your videos and then finally connect with you here. So if I'm in Denmark anytime, I'll maybe come for a lift or something.
Yeah, man, you're welcome.
Yeah, okay. Thanks for doing this. Have a good rest of your day.
Yeah, man, you too. Thank you.
Goodbye.
Bye.